Aloha. Well, I guess it is still afternoon, isn't it? Man, we've had a number of presentations today. This is Andrew Aloha live out of Tucson, Arizona, with Spiritual Homes Productions on Webinar Jam, establishing and maintain right relationships through human values. Today we're doing yet another presentation of the GPS Paranormal Golden Age Hangout webinar series that we're doing all week long. Right now we have Madeline Eyer. Eyer, is that how you say your name, Madeline?
That's it, Eyer.
Eyer.
Eyer, yes. I see the big picture.
I feel like a pirate when I'm talking to you. Eyer. Okay,
fine.
So anyhow, she's going to be talking about elevate your consciousness with food. Foods have vibrational frequencies just like you and I do. The higher the frequency of the foods we choose to eat, the more supportive they are of our overall health, vitality, and spiritual connection. In this presentation, it is my intention to help you understand, and Madeline's intention to help you understand more deeply the connection between how we choose to nourish our bodies and overall experience here on the planet, to motivate and inspire you to make choices that are supportive of vibrancy and connection, and to offer you ways to begin to continue the process of elevating your consciousness one bite at a time. So anyhow, I do want to thank you for being here, and aloha.
Aloha, and thank you, Andrew, for inviting me, and thank you to all of you who are here spending time with us this afternoon, or evening, or whatever time it is where you are in the world. Well, first of all, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about me and why I'm so passionate about what it is I'm going to share today. So many years ago, we'll go back a little bit to childhood, I had many challenges physically. I was a colicky baby. I was crying all the time. And growing up, I had eczema, which is a skin rash on my hands so bad that I would just tear my skin off at night, and it was really, really challenging. It was painful, and it was raw, and my parents took me from doctor to doctor to doctor, and none of them ever had any real solution to offer. They would recommend this cream or that salve or that ointment, everything from black salve imported from Austria, which was like a tar, and it smelled like it too. And none of them ever made the connection with the food I was eating. Not one of them said, well, what are you feeding her? And my parents and I didn't make that connection either. So fast forward to 20 some odd years later, I went to a chiropractor who made that connection for me. And he said, I'm going to teach you how to eat. And he did. And it was a short list. It was more concentrated on what I could eat. And it was a very small list. And what I didn't realize at the time, what he didn't share with me, was that when you clean up your diet like that, it's very detoxifying to the body. And so I found myself not feeling very well. And I thought, well, what's up with this? I am following all these instructions, and I'm eating better, and I'm taking really good care of myself. Why am I getting sick? And what I didn't realize, it was the detoxification reaction. And so I'm gonna take this opportunity right now to tell you.
So, well, before you go there,
yeah,
why don't you tell us what kind of food you were eating when you were growing up, and then what kind of foods this guy was telling you to eat on that list, and then go into where you're at now.
Sure. Well, you know, I grew up in an Italian family, and we lived in New York. And
really,
so,
you're Italian? Holy cow!
Mom's Italian, Dad's Polish. I heard all the jokes, and I was born, you know, in Brooklyn, New York. So there was a big focus on Wonder Bread and, you know, bologna sandwiches and pepperoni and all that stuff that really I wouldn't.
No wonder. The other day I went and bought some bread, and guess what kind of bread it was? Thank you very much. Yep.
Was it Wonder Bread?
Yeah.
I haven't even seen that. And you know, we never wondered what the heck was in there. We just knew it, quote, help build strong bodies, 12 ways. It was kind of an interesting marketing thing. But, you know, there's not a lot of nutrition in that. And we didn't realize it. I mean, my parents did what was being done at the time. I was born in the 1950s, and, you know, it was the time when people ate, you know, canned vegetables and frozen vegetables, and, you know, even in terms of early nutrition, breastfeeding, the doctor told my mother she was too nervous to breastfeed. And so they gave me formula, which made me sick. And then they wondered why I was colicky. It's crazy. So I learned at a really early age, I had this experience of what happens when you don't feed your body what it really needs. And I'm really grateful for that. I mean, as challenging as it was growing up, it taught me so much about questioning the so-called authority and looking for answers on my own, you know, not taking what people say as gospel. And I would urge all of you to do that. Don't believe a word I say, you know, but take it and trust your own inner wisdom and do your own research from there, because that's the only way to go. I mean, you have your own internal GPS.
Exactly.
And yeah, and some of the points I'm going to share about how I changed my diet is really going to prove helpful for you, because it's going to strengthen your own ability to do that. And that's really why I'm here. I want to empower people and share some of what I went through, just as a starting point for them to improve their own lives. So, you know, I think it would be a good idea if folks have a minute, if they just grab a piece of paper and a pen and ask yourself 3 simple little questions. Because I feel it's always important to get a sense of where we are at any point in our journey, so we can know where we want to be. You know, how satisfied are we? So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would ask you to do a little self-assessment. How satisfied are you right now? And you're the only one that has to be satisfied. This is not for me or anyone else. How satisfied are you, with 10 being extremely satisfied, with your physical health, with your vitality, with your vibrancy, right? Your energy level. Now let's go to the emotional. How satisfied are you on a scale of 1 to 10 with your emotions? Are they up and down like a roller coaster? Are you able to ride that roller coaster and feel confident and not fly off the handle over, you know, seemingly trivial matters? And then spiritual. You know, how connected do you feel to your own spiritual nature, to your own higher self, to your own higher power, whatever word you use for that, God, source. Yeah, it's not about religion, it's about connection with all that is, with the oneness. And yeah, so just, you know, be with that, set that aside, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. And after we talk about some of these points, you know, see what you might want to do to take some steps to go from there. So let's see now. When I talked about my experience, that really, in childhood, it really strengthened my desire to be of service in the world more and more. And so much that I learned along the way. You know how you go about your day and your life, and you adopt changes, and it's such a gradual thing. You don't even realize how far you've come. That's why I love the idea of doing the self-assessment, right? Because you can see where you were and take note of the changes. And I just think it's really important for people to have that own sense, their own sense of how far, because I think we tend to look at ourselves and where we are and see where we want to be as being like way out there, right? And discounting how much has actually been accomplished. So, so fast forward, you know, the childhood eczema thing, and then I was married to a man for 21 years, which was for the most part, a pretty unfulfilling marriage. I mean, we had a beautiful daughter, and I'm really grateful for that. And there were a lot of challenges in that relationship with him, and we grew apart. But I had a sort of a comfortable life. I mean, people could look at me and think, oh, she's got the best of all worlds. I mean, I lived in a beautiful home. I had drove a nice car. I was a stay-at-home mom. And from the outside looking in, it looked like this amazing, wonderful life. But really, it was soul-crushing. I was feeling so unfulfilled. The distance between us was growing further and further. And I just knew that something had to change because I was going to die there. It just felt that way. And whatever that spark was inside of me that prompted me to move forward and search for what it was that would support me in moving forward with my life, I prayed. I prayed and I prayed, and I had the courage to get out of that relationship and move on. And I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, but I knew I had to take those steps. And from there, I wasn't feeling so well. And then I found out I had some heavy metal toxicity. So, I had to work through those challenges.
And what was that from?
Well, we never did find out, Andrew. It's really interesting because I thought about that. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and we had, as I said before, and the water pipes were made of lead, so maybe that was part of it. But there was lead and cadmium levels off the charts, and we could never figure out where exactly that came from. So, I went to work with a naturopath. I did a little bit of chelation therapy. I chose to do that, which is pretty tricky because it takes your minerals out too. So you have to supplement your minerals. But I just really. Pardon?
Hang on a second. Can you see yourself on your screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, because right now I'm just seeing your picture and that's it. So but go ahead. And I'm not sure what it's recording. I'm assuming that it's recording you and not the picture, hopefully. So, but go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So I did some chelation therapy and had to be careful because it also chelates the minerals out of your body, and you need your minerals, so you have to put that back. But the levels were so high, they were dangerously high. I mean, literally off the charts. And so I felt the need to do something to mitigate the exhaustion I was feeling. I had no energy for anything. And again, in praying for answers, the next thing that came up was raw food. And so I was introduced to what a raw food diet felt like. And I'm not here specifically promoting that. I think everybody is uniquely different, and I think our needs change from day to day, moment to moment, year by year. We're all different, and I think it's more important that we honor our own sense of what we need. I will say though that most of all the different eating styles out there, one thing that seems to be pretty commonly recognized and acknowledged is the need for more raw, fresh, organic fruits and vegetables, minus the pesticides. The food situation, the way it is right now, I mean, there's so much that is out of our control, and we all have to eat. And so there are certain things we can do. All illness, well, I won't say all, because all is maybe a little bit too extreme, but the majority of illness, I believe, comes from two things: deficiency and toxicity. Deficiency meaning we're not receiving the nutrition that we need, and toxicity meaning toxic buildup from things in our environment, things we're eating, pesticides, GMOs, which are rampant in the food supply and not labeled right now, and I'll get into that later. That's a pretty important issue for me. heavy metals. I mean, in the air we breathe, fluoride in water. It goes on and on. And so I really feel like it's important to be diligent and have an awareness so that we can do what's best for our bodies and our spirit and our soul, you know, because these bodies that we're inhabiting, these are what our soul expression has to express itself, right? The soul is inhabiting this body, and it wants to express itself and learn about itself through this body as a vehicle. So, you know, it pays to give it the fuel that it needs. You know, I think about a car, and you guys will get this. I mean, you take care of your cars, right? If it says to put in high-test gasoline, that's what you're going to do. If it requires diesel, you're going to give it diesel. And yet, what do we do when it comes to eating? Right? We just grab the first thing we can get our hands on, whatever's quick and easy, without giving it much thought. And based on my experience and the experience of so many people that I know and that I've worked with, we can't do that anymore. We can't afford to do that. We need to pay attention, and not to make ourselves crazy, but just to have an amount of knowledge that is going to help us to make decisions that are going to benefit us and the planet long term. You know, fluoride is something that I wanted to talk about. If you want to talk about spiritual connection, we've got this gland behind our third eye. It's called the pineal gland. And that is referred to in some traditions as the seat of the soul. It's like an antenna, right? It helps us to connect. Well, many people are walking around with calcification on their pineal gland, and that is like interference. If you think of a radio and you're changing channels and you're in between stations and you get all that static, it's the same thing with that calcification. It's going to impede your ability to connect in that way. And fluoride is a big contributor to that. And what is put in our water supply? Fluoride. So what do I advocate for? Clean water, unfluoridated water. And just a little background on that, because I think it's kind of interesting. Many years ago, well, fluoride is actually a byproduct, a waste product from the aluminum manufacturing industry. And so the Rockefellers, years ago, owned Alcoa, and they determined that rather than spend money to properly dispose of their toxic waste, they somehow convinced someone that it would be a good thing to put it in the water supply. And there are dentists that would disagree with me, and there are dentists, my own actually dentist who is retired now, but he would go to lobby down in the state of Washington where I live, and to Olympia, to our capital, and tried to get them to stop fluoridating the water. So
I apologize, but can you bring your camera down a little bit so we can see you a bit more better?
Sure. Is that better?
Okay. Yep, that's better. Okay, go ahead. Thanks.
Sure. So
anyhow, you were talking about this guy?
The dentist, yeah, my dentist who retired, he really feels very strongly, and I agree with him, that fluoride is a neurotoxin and it has no business in our water supply. And my concern is how it increases the calcification of the pineal gland, you know, inhibiting our connection.
Really? Now, I've done some investigating about fluoride, and from what I understand, that fluoride is nothing more than chemical waste from companies that just want to get rid of their chemicals, and so that's just a good way for them to do it, so that they don't have to pay all this extra money to go and get rid of somewhere else. So. Yep,
that's pretty much what I shared. Yeah, that was those Rockefellers. You know, they own Alcoa, and Alcoa makes, you know, aluminum foil, and it is a byproduct, a waste product of the aluminum manufacturing industry. And sure, rather than pay to dispose of it properly, let's just dump it in the water. And there's no safe level of fluoride. You don't want to be ingesting that. And while we're talking about toxins, let's talk about vaccines. You know, and all of the chemicals that they have, formaldehyde and mercury and all that stuff that they inject. You know, there's just no need for that.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
You know, illness is not doesn't come from a vaccine deficiency. You know, if you want to avoid the flu, you don't need a vaccine to do that, in my opinion. Of course, consult your doctor. That's my disclaimer. But I would rather build up my immune system, and that'll take care of it. You know, there are plenty of things you can do. There are some fabulous essential oils, and if anybody listening to this would like information about that, please contact me. I am happy to share information with you about that. And that's Madeline@consciouslyraw.com is the email, and we'll give you that later too. But that's just a quick. Anyway, so you know, my promise to myself several years ago, my proclamation that I made was, no matter what it takes, I am going to do what I can while I have the awareness, while I have this body, to keep moving forward in my life. And all of these things that I'm sharing are things that I've come across along the way that I felt have made a real difference to me. The raw food piece was like a major final piece to increase my level of raw and living food. Has served me like nothing that I've encountered before. And again, I'm not condoning that everybody run out and become a raw foodist. It's a fad like anything else. And long term, I've heard people don't necessarily always thrive on it, but if you're seeking to detoxify your body, it's certainly a very helpful way to go. I mean, there are whole protocols, you know, with juicing that help people to heal from a variety of illnesses. And you know, the Garson Clinic is one in particular. You know, I would ask the folks out there, you know, do you know anyone who has been diagnosed with cancer? Have you been diagnosed with cancer? It's rampant right now. In the last couple of weeks, I've had 3 friends be diagnosed with cancer. What's up with that?
Exactly, and diabetes is the other one.
Diabetes is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is the high fructose corn syrup that they're using as an additive in a lot of the processed foods, which again brings us back to more raw and living food. It's, you know, closest to its natural form, and it doesn't have all of those additives, and you know, it's not going to imbalance your system like it is. GMOs, I have to talk about that because it, yeah, I know, we've heard about it ad nauseum. Well, I live in Washington, and here, you know, we had our labeling initiative that we tried to pass, you know, just like California did, and I think it was 2012, and last year was our turn, and I was so sure we were going to do it. You know, Washington, Seattle, we're so progressive here, right? We passed gay marriage, we have marijuana laws that made it legal, and so GMOs should be a walk in the park, right? Oh no, no match for the Grocery Manufacturers Association and the chemical companies who have a vested interest in making sure that you do not know what is in the food that you're eating. And so they anteed up to the tune of $22 million in corporate money, and proceeded to blast the airwaves with a whole bunch of lies to convince people of things that, you know, made them feel that that wasn't such a good thing to do after all. Even though 93% of the population, according to a New York Times survey, agree that it's, you know, they want to see labeling. There are 64 countries around the world, including all of Europe, that have labeling. Many companies have banned GMOs, and we can't even get a freaking label. What
Wow.
is that?
Wow. No kidding.
It's
Amazing.
insane. And I don't know, there are a lot of people that don't even understand why they're such a challenge, but there's 2 kinds of GMOs. One has a pesticide built in, and the other is made to withstand more pesticides. So either way, you're getting a whole bunch of pesticides. And Monsanto is selling a whole bunch more chemicals. And that's what it's all about, right? That's why they have such deep pockets. There's a lot to lose there. And they know darn well if there's a label on them, then people are going to find it a lot easier to avoid them, and their sales are going to go down. And, you know, so you always have to follow the money. It's another thing I learned early on.
Exactly. All about economics, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things about the GMOs is that I can see, and again, it's still there's not enough information, not nearly enough information, and it's undetermined. But if the water resources become depleted here on this planet in the years to come, then GMOs are going to be very useful as food byproducts for us to work with and eat. But again, you know, how healthy are they? And a lot of people are discovering they're not healthy. But it is, you know, it might be better to have some food than no food at all, even though it's unhealthy. Who knows? So there's still a lot to determine. And again, you know, where do you draw the line? You know what I'm saying?
Monsanto would have you believe that. That's what you've just shared is a lot of the propaganda that's been.
No, I'm sure. This is what I'm picking up on my own.
Right, and I don't know what sources you're using, but a lot of that is party line Monsanto kind of story. There's much more evidence to indicate that sustainable agriculture is more than adequate to feed the world. But this is what they do.
Well, that's a good point. Right now it is, and I don't know. Again, this has nothing to do with Monsanto. I mean, again, there's not enough information to determine our water. There is. Okay.
There
is.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's not a food problem; it's a distribution problem. And
I'm not talking about a food problem right now. What I'm talking about, a water problem, is what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about GMOs. So water is a whole other issue. But if they're going to keep contaminating the water with chemicals,
but yeah, exactly.
That's going to be a problem, right? So, yeah, I just feel like if anybody wants more information about GMOs, because I could talk about that ad nauseum, but I'd rather not spend all my time on that. You can go to the Institute for Responsible Technology, and Jeffrey Smith, who I've trained with, has done a remarkable job. His website is loaded with resources, and you can get a real education there. You know, his movie Genetic Roulette is wonderful. It explains how the GMOs are made, why they're so unstable, and why you want to avoid them. And one last point about that, you know, in terms of the studies, Monsanto will not allow anybody to do studies. They claim it's patented technology. Well, it is patented, which is interesting in and of itself, because on one claim they say it's patented because it's different, and then on another claim they say, well, it's substantially the same, so we don't have to test it. You see, so that they have it both ways, and you can't have it both ways. Either it's different or it isn't. Right?
I agree with you in the way they're going about to put this, you know, put this out there. You know, they're running over people. They're being very arrogant and very you know, they're bullying people around, and I don't think that's cool at all. That's they're being out of context with good healthy relationships, and that's not cool, and that's not professional either. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So it's you know, and then there's a whole group of physicians for responsible medicine who have seen a variety of illnesses from, you know, their patients, a lot of them gastrointestinal types of illnesses, because this is interesting, one of the pesticides, one of the GMOs has a Bt toxin built into it. And what that is designed to do is when the insects eat that corn that has that toxin built into it, when they eat it, they get little holes in their intestines. And so when then they eat, they can't get the nutrients that they need, and they die. And the chemical companies, Monsanto, etc., are asserting that that isn't going to hold true for people. It's just the insects. And yet, the doctors are seeing similar types of gastrointestinal related issues in their patients and advising their patients to get off of GMOs, which again is no easy feat because they're not labeled. And when they do, they're improving. Also,
by getting off the GMOs.
By getting off the GMOs, yeah. So allergies, right? Allergies are on the rise. And why is that? Well, if there are holes being poked in your intestinal tract, then larger particles of undigested food are able to pass into your bloodstream. Do you think that might contribute to allergic response to certain foods? I do, and I'm not the only one.
Okay.
So
I haven't heard that one yet, but that's interesting. And that's just from eating GMO foods, and that's what you're saying.
correct. Yeah, and then animal studies, again, you know, Monsanto won't allow studies, so there was a study that was done, it was like an animal farm, and they had identical animals, and they had two kinds of feed. They had the GMO feed, and they had the non-GMO feed. So they separated the animals and fed them the same way. Some of them got this pile, you know, this group got the GMO feed, and the other group got the non-GMO feed. And when all was said and done, at the end of that study, when those animals died and they looked at their insides, the ones that had eaten the GMO had all kinds of organ damage. And so, you know, that was pretty anecdotal. It was more than anecdotal. It was pretty clear, you know, that there was an issue there. And that's the only study that's ever been done that I know of, again, because it's frowned upon. And I might add that the companies that are making these things are policing themselves. You know, the burden of proof should be on them that they're safe, but instead they're saying, no, they're safe, and our FDA is allowing it to, you know, it's taking their word for it, basically. And, you know, it's all about the money, really.
Yep, absolutely. You're correct.
Yeah. So
yeah. I guess all we have to do is well, I mean, I don't know that there's a good answer for any of this. Either way, we're going to have to work through all of this and get through all this, because and you know, it was funny because years ago I wrote a letter to, I think it was one of the senators, a senator for California. I can't remember, Boxer, I think, or I can't
Barbara
remember.
Boxer or Henry Waxman.
And I said, you know, all these, you know, all this stuff is going on, and you guys aren't doing anything about it. But you know, the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter if you guys are making money off of this. You know, your grandchildren and their grandchildren are going to have to live in all this. And do you really want to destroy their future with all this foolishness, really? And she did. She wrote me back.
Really? What did she say?
Yeah.
I'm really curious.
I can't remember what she told me, but she did write me back, and I thought that was interesting. So.
I wonder that too. You know, I mean, at what price do you?
I mean, and it's stupid. And these people are making all this money, but what difference does it make if their kids and their grandkids and are not going to be around to enjoy all that? What difference does it make? That's stupid.
Very short-sighted, isn't it?
That's exactly right. No kidding.
And fear-based, right? I mean, how much money does anybody need, really? You know, and is it okay to pillage the planet and, you know, for the sake of lining your bank account? It's really unfortunate. But, you know, there's an upside, and the upside is it's part of the waking up of the people, right? Those that were not aware of this issue before are becoming more and more aware. They're seeking to live their lives more responsibly, paying attention to what they eat, what they're feeding their families. They're questioning authority. They're learning about corporations and how they do business and really what's important to them. You know, there's a big boycott right now going on pertaining to Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola laundered $1.5 million through the Grocery Manufacturers Association during the time when we were trying to pass our GMO labeling last year. A lot of companies did that, but Coke comes to mind especially because on the one hand, they bought up smaller companies like Odawalla, that some people think is healthy juice, and Honest Tea, which my husband and I refer to as dishonest tea now, because these are small organic brands, right? And people have felt good about supporting these companies that are offering these more healthful alternatives. And yet, whose pockets do we line when we buy those? Zyco coconut water, they own that brand as well. There's at least a half a dozen vitamin water. And so it's becoming more and more necessary to understand and vote with our purchases all the time. So my husband used to drink Honest Tea. We don't buy that anymore. I won't bring it into the house. You find an alternative if you're out. When we're home, we make our tea. But if he's out and about, then.
Now, is Honest Tea, is that a company that makes tea, or is that or you're just saying tea in general?
No, Honest Tea is a company. It's a brand. It was a small company that made its iced tea organic, and you'd find it in a lot of health food stores. Our local co-op had it. Whole Foods probably has it, and Coca-Cola bought them out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so then people who were buying that tea before that sort of felt that they were supporting this small company, didn't realize that they're lining Coca-Cola's coffers with money. When, see, on one side of the coin, there's Coke promoting these more healthful brands, right? They purchase them, so they're getting in on the organic craze. And on the other side, they're spending the money that they're making from your purchases to thwart your right to know what's in the food you're eating. Mm. So part of what happened for me as my system got clearer and clearer, which I do attribute to the raw food, is the life evolves in such a way that to me, it's just about integrity, right? I command a high level of integrity for myself and for those that I interact with. And I'm going to spend my money with companies that are in alignment with my values. Coca-Cola is just one example. That's not it. I've got an app on my phone. It's called Buicott, B-U-I-C-O-T-T. Fabulous little app. It's free. You can just put in what types of, there are different campaigns. So for me, anybody that opposed GMO labeling, I have identified that as one of my campaigns. I don't support those. Coke Industries, which I have issues with how they do business. If their hands are in it, I'm not buying it, and so you just take your smartphone and you go to the store and you load that app and you scan the barcode and it'll come up and tell you what the story is with that, if you have any personal conflicts with that company. And that's how I do my shopping. Mm. And
so you're saying that Coca-Cola, you're talking about Coca-Cola specifically, not Pepsi.
Well, in this case, Pepsi, there are issues with that too, but
not the same though, but.
Well, no, similar. They own other brands too that are helpful, and I don't know specifically off the top of my head what their donation level was, how they contributed. I just know Coke contributed heavily to the No on 522 campaign, which is the labeling initiative here. And my husband and I, we marched. We held banners over the freeway. I mean, seriously, this is an important issue to us. I'm no kid. I'm going to be 60 years old next year. And
really?
Oh yeah.
Wow! Holy cow! Raw food.
Yeah, raw food.
Okay.
I never thought I would be so active. I never considered myself political or, one to march or do any of that. But it comes to a point in your life where you have to say, hey, if not me, who? If not now, when? You take a stand for what you believe in.
Well, that's it. That's it. I mean, and you got, well, I mean, and part of the development process, part of the process of being in right, healthy relationship with the others as well as with yourself has to do with taking a stand not to be abused anymore. Absolutely. I mean, why not? If
That's
that's
right.
what it takes, then why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and the question now you talk about that, so boundaries comes to mind. How many times
Exactly.
do we, in our interactions with others, in our need to be liked or whatever story we've had playing in our lives, in our minds for so long, we will maybe agree to do something that we'd rather not do. And then what do? We get resentful and pissed off at the other person, right? When we had the power to choose all along. And oftentimes, we just don't even realize it. So raw food helped me with that too. It's the clarity you gain when your body is properly nourished and yeah, and you're getting the nutrients you need. And it's also, right, raw food is naturally detoxifying. So it serves a dual purpose.
No,
So
so no, another aspect about food, which a lot of people don't recognize, and it's not a religious thing. It's more of a, again, when I teach people, when I talk to people, when I work with people about the development process, about your health, about being in your higher state of consciousness. Um, I, I I always include the other side as well as this side, the spirit world as well as this world. And so one of the things that you want to do is I call it program. People call it prayer. I just call it program. Is program your food before you eat it. That's another thing that would help in terms of having that body, that food ready for your body. So when you intake the food will be more nourishing for your body than not. If that makes any sense.
I absolutely agree. I always pray over my food that it will nourish my body, that it will be
What are you doing right now? There's some noise and noise in the background.
nourishing.
I don't know what. Did you put something next to the mic?
Is that
Oh,
better?
what? Okay. I don't know. Okay, go ahead. But anyhow, go ahead.
All right. So, yeah, no, I think it's very important to pray over your food and to offer gratitude for the food. In fact, I offer gratitude to the farmers who grew the food when I'm not growing it myself. Now that summer is here, that's another point I really wanted to make here today in terms of, what can people begin to do? Because it's a process, right? You can't just do everything at once. When you start changing over your life, it's really one step at a time, right? Nothing happens overnight. And actually, because raw food is so detoxifying, naturally, you're going to want to take baby steps and go at a pace that's comfortable because of the detoxification process. So, what I would encourage people to do is just change one thing, right? Add in a fresh vegetable with your meal. Whatever's on your plate, just put an extra fresh vegetable there. And because everybody's in a different place right now, that might seem not enough for some of you. Maybe you want to have a green smoothie for breakfast, right? That would be a good thing to do. And in fact, I wrote a book on that, which I can show you. Actually, it's this one. It's called Essential Green Smoothies. And I call it that because I
No,
created.
no. Move your hands, move your
Oh,
fingers, and
there
put
you
it
go.
closer to the camera so we can see a little bit better.
Second,
Oh, yeah, there you go. Essential green smoothies.
essential green smoothies, right? And I call it essential because I include an option for adding in some essential oils. Because again, everything you come in contact with, your cleaning products, whatever you put in your body has an impact on you. And so essential oils are like the lifeblood of the plants, right? They help the plants maintain their balance. And I feel very strongly that they can do that for us as well and support the body's own ability to heal itself and detoxify itself. And so I use a lot of the citrus oils in my recipes or the fresh fruit, so people have an option. And anyway, so that's the book.
Got
So,
it.
have
Now,
a good.
what do you feel? What do you think about tomatoes?
Tomatoes are very good for you. It's interesting because where I grew up on the East Coast, I haven't had tomatoes like that in a long time. I think that they've done something to them in terms of the ripening process, and that there's a shorter season here. The weather, at least in Seattle, where I live, we don't have the amount of sunshine and heat that's required like we had back east, but we used to get these amazing beefsteak tomatoes. Like we would just eat them like, like a peach. You just put a little salt on it and eat it. Oh, delicious.
By itself? Yeah, no kidding.
But tomatoes are good for you. They're loaded with lycopene, which is a very helpful nutrient, especially for men. So yeah, tomatoes are good.
Somebody was saying that they were not good for you for some reason. They were too acidy or something. I don't remember what.
Okay, so you're probably talking about because they're a nightshade. So there are certain vegetables, white potatoes, eggplant, green peppers, and tomatoes are considered nightshade vegetables. And if you have arthritis, you will find that if you eat too many nightshades, it will aggravate your arthritis. And so,
oh, really? Got it.
Yeah, but again, everything in balance. When your body is in balance, you can eat a wider variety of things. But there's still that premise that one man's food is another man's poison. We are all different, and our needs change. So again, it gets back to honoring your own system, your own body, your own needs at any given time. Around the time when I found out I had the heavy metal toxicity, I had some other testing, and they realized that some of the foods that I had been relying on from the perspective of eating more raw food, I had a sensitivity to, like almonds, right? Almonds are perfectly healthy, but I've been eating them in excess. And so I want to say nothing in excess is going to serve you, really. It's about balance and rotating your diet and that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So So because you were eating too many almonds, what did it cause? What problem did it cause?
Well, it wasn't anything that I noticed specifically, except it came up on a blood test. And I think that when you do a cleanse, you have more of a sense of when you eat something that doesn't make you feel right. You get that sensation right away. But I think day in and day out, we tend to go about our business and our lives, and we don't even realize. Like gluten is like that for a lot of people. That's a huge issue for so many people right now. And part of that is because of the fact that the wheat in this country has been modified over time to have such a high content of gluten in it that was not present years ago, that is not present in other countries, in fact. Like people go to Europe and go to France and have a baguette and they're fine. But they come to this country and they eat bread and they're all getting sick, And so it gets back to the
Right. I have cut out bread considerably out of my diet, quite a bit. It just varies, but for the most part, I've cut out quite a bit of it.
Yeah, I've done that too, and a lot of people have, and they've noticed, quite a benefit from it. So
I think my allergies maybe have been a little bit better. I'm not sure, but and my sinusitis. I've had chronic sinusitis since 1991, since they started spraying all these chemtrails.
Yeah. I don't know if it would help for that, but certainly for allergens, like, pollens and things like that, a combination of lemon, lavender, and peppermint, I'm talking about pure essential oils, has been known to assist people with seasonal relief. That often comes up in the spring and summertime when things are blooming outside. So that's...
Now, it's come to my attention that there actually may be several people in this webinar, but nobody's registering. It's not showing that anybody's in here. I'm not sure how many people are or aren't in here, but
okay,
if people want to connect with Madeline, you can just email her directly and ask her questions, or myself, spiritualimageproductions@yahoo.com, spiritualimageproductions@yahoo.com. Now, if you want them to email you at all, Madeline, what email address would they use?
Okay, well, one thing they can do to connect with me is they can go to www.consciouslyraw.com. That's my website.
Okay, and I have that in there in the chat room, so people can check that out. But go ahead.
Okay. And if they needed some help and they wanted to get some one-to-one guidance, they can reach me at Madeline, Madeline, at consciouslyraw.com.
Okay.
It's a journey, it's a process, and it's really important to have support. I mean, I am never without support in my life. It just makes it a whole lot easier. And to have someone who's been where you are, who's worked through a lot of the challenges, that understands, some of what you're going through, it's really invaluable. And I'm so happy to be that resource for people.
Got it.
Don't hesitate to get in touch.
So now, we got about 8 minutes left. Is there anything else that you want to put out there that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, let me think about that.
I see smoke coming out of those ears there now. We better watch out.
Yeah, I really just want people to know that you have a choice. Every time you go shopping, you have a choice. And with the weather so beautiful as it is here now with springtime, like we planted our first garden. It's not something we've ever done. Where we live, the soil is kind of clay, and we have a lot of trees, so we don't get a lot of sunshine. But there's a community garden space just a little over a mile from here in our town, and we got this 20 by 20 foot plot, and we are learning how to be gardeners, and we're growing all kinds of stuff. My husband really got into it. He's an engineer, and he built these beautiful raised beds, 8 of them on our 20 by 20 foot plot, and we're growing lettuce and beets and all kinds of leafy greens to put in our green smoothie, and kale and broccoli and beans, and everything is going great, So if that's an option, or even containers on your deck, grow some fresh herbs, grow something, go play in the dirt. CSAs, community-supported agriculture, there are a lot of those that are cropped up around where folks can you contribute a certain amount of money, and then you get a share in what they harvest, and you get your box every week. And that's great because you get to experiment with different kinds of vegetables and fruits that maybe you might not have purchased in the supermarket. We all tend to get in a rut, right? We find things that we like, and we eat them till we're sick of them. And with that, they're bringing other choices to you, and then you can learn about what to do with them. And so that's kind of fun. And local co-ops, farmers markets. We've got some great farmers markets around here. Get to know your farmers and how your food is being grown, and yeah, just get involved.
Awesome, awesome. And what was I gonna say? I can't remember. Oh, the kind of what kind of smoothies do you do all the time?
Oh, I mix it up according to what's seasonal when I can. So right now, strawberries in season. We went strawberry picking on Saturday, and we picked about, I think it was close to 18 pounds of strawberries.
Wow!
Yep.
Holy cow, Batman!
Yeah. So we, cleaned them up and we froze them into little packages, and we'll be enjoying those for a while. We do the same thing when blueberry season will be here in about a month. And last year we froze 25 pounds of blueberries. We're down to the last bag, so we're savoring it right now until the new batch is in. Raspberries are coming up soon in a couple of weeks, so we're gonna get some of those. And yeah, so I try to use what's local and in season. In Washington, we get a lot of apples. Not this time of year, but in the fall, those will be good. Will be available. People don't realize the footprint of eating food that comes from far away. That has to be transported. That all the fossil fuel, gasoline and stuff that gets burned, and all the nutrition that gets lost in the process. They pick something and you don't get it until days later. You try eating some really fresh food, you can tell the difference. It's
Oh,
amazing.
you aren't kidding.
Yeah.
You're not kidding.
Go out in your yard and pick your own lettuce and eat that. And oh boy, it's day and night. You won't want it any other way.
Absolutely. No, where was it? When I was living in California a few years ago, I lived there for a few months and me and the partner I was went to a place called Mama's. I can't remember what the name of it was called, but anyhow, we went there and we got some organic bananas. Wow. Those were the most delicious bananas I've ever eaten in my whole life. Wow, I was just blown away. I couldn't believe it. So we got went back and got some more, but I just couldn't stop eating them because they were so freaking good. Wow.
And the cleaner your system gets and the cleaner your palate gets, the more you're able to taste the food and really enjoy it. And yeah, it's experiential. In fact, if people go on my website, if they go on consciouslyraw.com, there's a free gift that I have there if they sign up for my newsletter. It's a program that I put together. It's got a dozen recipes. I've also got a bunch of videos there on the site of me making food, so people can see what that looks like. But the gift is like a dozen recipes. There's a shopping list, and it's kind of like a mini program to give you an experiential feeling of what it feels like in your body to eat real healthy food for 3 days, and you will notice a difference. I guarantee it. So go for it and love your body.
Hang on a second. What I'm trying to do is pull up the itinerary for tomorrow because I'm trying to give people a brief overview of what to expect. But I tell you what. Oh, you don't have that itinerary.
I might have it. Do you want me to?
Yeah. Can you bring it? Can you bring it up on your computer, or
I think I can. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, tomorrow's day 3, so at 10 a.m., Sam J. Maranto, Correlations or Coincidence, Specific UFO Case Studies. Then at noon, Sherry Gideons and Sheldon Ginsberg. And that's going to be on Manifesting 101. 2 o'clock is none other than Andrew Aloha, Transmission Meditation on the Air. And
oh, I'm doing meditation tomorrow? I forgot about that. Okay, go ahead.
And then 4 o'clock is still to be announchave. I don't know if you've got that slot filled, but
that's an old version because I'm pretty sure I have a woman by the name of Catherine Andrews who's going to be talking about I believe dreams. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. I just reloaded it.
Yeah.
You're right. Catherine Andrews, 6 Paths to Fulfilling Relationships. Right. Very good.
Yeah, there you go.
So make sure you tune in, folks, and check
Well, I
out
want to,
amazing
yeah,
things.
definitely. And again, if there is people here and can't, you can't get into the chat room or whatever, I apologize. This system, I'm just working with it as best I know how, and that's it. So I want to thank you, Madeline, for coming here, sharing your stuff with us. I appreciate it, and maybe somewhere down the road we'll get some more of these up and going. So, thank all of you for being here. Have a goddess week. Be the love that you are, always have been, and always will be. Aloha.